Please repeat.
Yasya brahmadayo deva.
Yasya brahmadayo devya.
Yasya brahmadayo deva.
Yasya brahmadayo deva.
Veda lokashchara
Veda lokaschara chara.
Nama rupa vivedena.
Nama rupa vivedena.
Audhyacha kalaya vitaha.
Argacha karaya krita.
Yasya brahmadayo deva.
Yasya brahmadayo deva. Veda lokaschara chara. Nama rupa vivedena. Argacha karaya krita.
Just want to try. So, Yasya,
Yasya,
of the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Brahma Adaya,
Brahma Adaya,
the great demigods,
the great demigods,
headed by Lord Brahma.
headed by Lord Brahma.
Deva,
Deva,
and the other demigods.
and the other demigods.
Veda,
Veda,
the Vedic knowledge.
knowledge.
Loka,
Lokaha,
different personalities.
different personalities.
Chara, achara,
Chara, chara,
the moving and non-moving,
moving and non-moving.
like trees and plants.
Trees and plants.
Namarupa,
Nama rupa,
of different names and different forms.
different names and different forms.
Vibhedana,
Vedana,
by such divisions.
Sahihishan.
Phalgvya,
Bhavya,
who are less important.
who are less important.
Cha,
Cha,
also.
also.
Kalaya,
Karya,
by the parts.
by the parts.
Krita,
Kritaha,
created. Yata,
Yataha,
as.
as.
Archisaha.
If you are
Oh,
already
okay,
listed
so I guess this is it. Should we just go to the translation? Yeah. Okay. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead creates his minor parts, the Jiva Tattva, beginning with Lord Brahma, the demigods, and the expansions of Vedic knowledge, which are the Sama, Rig, Yagyur, and Atharva, and include all other living entities, moving and non-moving, with their different names and characteristics. As the sparks of a fire or the shining rays of the sun emanate from their source and merge into it again, the mind, the intelligence, the senses, the gross and subtle material bodies, and the continuous transformations of the different modes of nature all emanate from the Lord and again merge into him. He is neither demigod nor demon, neither human nor bird or beast. He is not woman, man, or neuter, nor is he an animal. He is not a material quality, a fruit of activity, a manifestation, or non-manifestation. He is the last word in the discrimination of this, he's the last word in the discrimination of not this, not this. And he is unlimited. All glories to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. This is a summary description of the personality of Godhead's unlimited potency. That Supreme One is acting in different by manifesting his parts and parcels, which are all simultaneously differently situated by his different potencies. Each and every potency is acting quite naturally. Therefore, the Lord is unlimited. Nothing is equal to him. nor anything greater than him. Although he manifests himself in so many ways, personally, he has nothing to do, for everything is done by expansions of his unlimited energies. Okay, thank you. So, I'm going to offer my obeisances to my spiritual master, and then I'll be. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Sachinanda Swami Namane Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaudavani Pacharani Vishesha Acharya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Saraswati Gaura Bhaktivedanta. Okay, so so it's quite a dense chunk of verses, but so Gajendra here is again offering his obeisances to the Supreme Lord and recognizing his different potencies in creating minor parts and parcels, the Jiva Tattva, so that's the all the expanded living beings like ourselves, beginning with Lord Brahma, who is the creator of the material universe, to the demigods and the expansions of Vedic knowledge, the Sama, Rig, Yagyur, and Artarva, including all other living entities, both moving and non-moving. And so it's like plants and animals, with their different names and characteristics. And I really liked this sort of visual presented in the verse as sparks of a fire. The shining rays of the sun emanate from their source and then merge back into it. And so, like with a bonfire, you see like a big fire, and then you see the sparks go up and swirl around, and then they come back into the fire and then continue to burn. So similarly, the living entities and our mind, intelligence, the senses, these bodies, and then the subtle material bodies, like our sense of ego, and the continuous transformations of different nature, which define goodness, passion, and ignorance. They emanate from the Lord, like the cracking of a fire, and then they swirl about, and then they enter back to the fire, and then merge back into him. But he himself isn't a demigod or a demon. And we see throughout the existence there are these two polarities in the material realm. Demigods are those who are counted amongst those who are taking responsibility in the universe to fulfill the Lord's purpose, and the demons who are undermining that purpose and just looking out for their own interest without concern or interest in participating in the greater system that was put in place. He is not a human, nor a bird or a beast. He is not a woman, a man, or a neuter, or I guess that would be like non-binary in today's terminology, nor is he an animal. He is not a materiality. He's not a fruitive activity, like he's not the endeavor to try to get something out of one's actions. He's not a manifestation or a non-manifestation. So this is what? he exists beyond and outside of this, like these dual conceptions of manifest or unmanifest. He is the last word in the discrimination of not this, not this. And so, that's a philosophical system the Naya would be, and so it's sort of like it's a way of determining the truth by um, dividing everything up to like to what it's not, and then you're left with what is. And so he's the last word in when you cut away everything that's not this, then you end up with him, which is. Um, uh, by the way, it seems more the sort of the method of our so-called scientific processes, of modern scientific processes, where they try to divide everything rather than see it as a holistic whole. Like reality is what you can break down into the smallest parts, like whatever the smallest parts are most real in modern science. They want what are the molecules behind it, whereas um, other conceptions. So that's there, that's valid, but there's also the holistic, like the whole completeness, where all these parts exist within the whole. And so he's that also. He is unlimited. All glories to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Gajendra explains. So, quite a bit. So quite, I think by nature, a lot of what I've come to appreciate in the description of personality of Godhead and throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam be the if we take note of what the effect we have in encountering this information. So reading all of this, like it's not like whoa, like I felt very small in like a big swirling, fantastic thing, and that's what one is left, what one is meant to experience, because this is like an experiential system of knowledge, not just something you memorize and can cram, but it's something that you have to experience as you go along. And actually, it's recommended with reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, which means basically the beautiful descriptions of the personality of Godhead, that you're meant to experience it as you read, and then you develop more and more realization. And it's said that by systematically reading this wonderful book and encountering and allowing it to affect us and expand our sense of existence, then we will realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We will know Krishna as a reality. He will actually come alive in the pages of these books. And so it's an extraordinary opportunity. But yeah, so we can just take note. It was a lot of things, so I don't know. You might be left with some sense of, I don't know, what are some of the things that stood out, and then most particularly what you experienced in hearing them. Just a quick little audience participation here.
I think it makes clear that it's actually beyond our capacity to grasp.
Mm.
And that even though he is beyond, still we can get some idea,
Mhm.
but he remain always out of the reach of the intellect.
Yes. Yeah. I like that. Anyone else? No wrong answers?
Well, in the purport at the beginning, Prabhupada mentions this is a summary description of the supreme personality of Godhead's unlimited potency.
Mm.
If I may just share a little realization, I guess,
Yeah.
or a thought that I had on this. I was thinking, like, you know how there's the Adi-Devic, Adi-Gotik, Adi-Yatmic, there's the effect of like his power and nature, and then anyways, I was just thinking, like, nature, for example, we're so insignificant compared to nature. Like, I'm just thinking, like, for example, this weather, not the cold weather.
Mm.
Everyone's moved or has to adjust according to the cold weather. Like, but that's just an insignificant power of God. So God is just like so unlimited. And
nice.
we're definitely not independent of that.
Right.
Potency, within that potency of God.
Excellent. That's an example. But yeah, we're here. It's like from California, sunny California, so it's like pretty consistent weather most of the time. But here, I'm really like, oh, okay. I'm if I go outside, I have to make all sorts of preparations because there is the effects of the Lord's potency in form of nature and weather is a power which is overpowering my own capacity to deal with it. I generate some heat in my body, but it's nowhere comparable to the amount of cold which I face outside. And all sorts of endeavor has to be made in order to create a little like pocket of comfort that's within our. So yeah, so much endeavor is there that's required to just face one of the Lord's potencies and energies. Really nice example. Anyone else? No obligation. I'm seeing there's just the front row is the most active, typically the case. But and with your point, that unlimited in the this is a summary description of the personality of Godhead's unlimited potency. In Abrahamic traditions, there's the tendency to say like God is so great, and I think there's even like if all the skies were parchment, all the skies were paper, and the trees were pens, and all the oceans were ink, you would never be able to get to the end of God's glories. And so, what it seems, the tendency is to not make the endeavor. They say like it's just so like don't try to define God, don't depict God, because God is always beyond your capacity, and this is valid and accurate. But my own personal version on that is better to spend one's life endeavoring to understand and glorify and depict God's glories, and never get to the end of it, but try, than to invest one's energy otherwise. The tendency to then put your energy into things that you can contain, you can control and dominate, and then you become a competitor to God's sense, because then we focus. If we're not like perpetually having our minds blown by the vastness of God and scampering, trying to like catch up to His limitless glories, then we'll, at least in my case, I tend to then focus on the things I can control, the things I can define, and then I end up trying to control those, which they're still beyond my control anyhow. So I think it's better better get lost, wandering. Where does where can I find an edge to the Lord, and not ever find it. So I think it's a bad use of time, but I don't want to negate other traditions, but we see in Bhakti, there is, and we will get into that a little bit more now. I'm going to make a segue. Just today is the appearance of Advaita Acharya, who is an intimate associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and part of the Pancha Tattva. And we can understand a little bit more potency of the unlimited personality of Godhead through understanding more about Him, because He is like basically non-different than Him. So there's a chapter in an amazing text called the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is the in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, I forget now. There's a like English translation. It's like the nectarine glories of the life force of like the nectar of the life force, something like that. But there's a chapter 6 is the glories of Sri Advaita Acharya. And this is, while Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken around 5,000 years ago. The Chaitanya Charitamrita was spoken or written about 500 years ago by a great devotee, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj, and it is like an expression of ecstasy and realization. And something I appreciate, we don't encounter it so much in this verse. There are many points throughout the Chaitanya Charitamrita where, like the wall, like in theater, like when the or in shows like The Office, where the actors look at the camera, and so in throughout this book, the author definitely addresses the reader, which is usually not you don't encounter that as much, and particularly in like I don't, not always in scripture or something. It's a description there, and then all of a sudden he'll just shift focus, and now you, I want you to experience this, or he's like, I actually don't feel like I'm qualified to present this, but this is to do, and so I'm praying that I can do that, and so it's a charming experience. There's something of the author that comes through, and so I will read through several verses, and then we'll get a sense of some of these unlimited potencies and how they relate to one another, because not only is the Lord unlimited, but as it was described, that there's all these living entities that expand him and then come back into him. But the basis of that is loving interaction. And we really see that show up in these descriptions. So hopefully you will enjoy them as much as I did in the process of researching this. And I was like, okay, I was trying to find just like one verse to focus on. And I was like, no, actually I have to go with the flowing river because it has some wonderful things. So I offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Advaita Acharya, whose activities are all wonderful. By his mercy, even a foolish person can describe his characteristics. All glories to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Acharya, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In 5 verses, I have described the principle of Lord Nityananda. That would be this chapter. Then in the following 2 verses, I describe the glories of Sri Advaita Acharya. Lord Acharya is the incarnation of Mahavishnu, whose main function is to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya. And so Mahavishnu, if you're not already familiar, we can understand an aspect of the Lord. There's Krishna, which means all attractive. And Krishna is, I've heard described as like Krishna at home with his friends and loved ones. He doesn't have any particular responsibility or job. He's just there enjoying with others. And then, but he is also, and those who are enjoying with him have no concern whether he's God or not God. They are just in love, and it's just, they have wonderful interactions. It's not tinged with that sense of likeness or like the unfathomable, unlimited nature of God, that by even an illusory potency, yoga maya, or a illusion that enables us to connect with God. There is they don't see the limited. They just think he's unlimitedly beautiful, unlimitedly sweet. I love him unlimitedly, but there isn't that sense of like, whoa, and then there's this and all the confusing aspects. It's like super clear, like, oh, yeah, he's my dear. But is also this expansive and the creator and all of that. And so in that capacity, God at work takes another form, just like At home, one may dress casually, but then when you go to work, dress up. And you've got according to your type of work. So maybe as creator God, or when I go to work as a creator, then I'll have my work clothes, protective gear, and whatever. If in a more administrative role, there might be another thing, a role which is demonstrating opulence, then I might then dress up, wear a nice watch, and make sure everything is groomed. And so similarly, the Lord manifests in different forms, fully embody the specific type of activity that he's engaging in. And so in the incarnation of Mahavishnu, he's there as the creator. Because he is non-different from Hari, the Supreme Lord, he is called Advaita, which means non-different. That's also a school of thought of non-dual philosophy. And because he propagates the cult of devotion, he is called Acharya, which means one who teaches by example. He is the Lord and the incarnation of the Lord's devotee. So he is the Lord and the incarnation of the Lord's devotee. Therefore, I take shelter of him. Sri Advaita Acharya is indeed directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, his glories beyond the conception of ordinary living beings. So I'm going to jump ahead. It describes that he creates and maintains with his external energy. He creates innumerable universes in pastimes. By his will, he manifests himself in unlimited forms in which he enters each and every universe. And so this is part of this vast and expansive, just when you look out into the sky and you see Jai Shri Radha Madan Mohan, just to get a sense, each star that we see in the sky, and here in good weather, one can see many, many stars in the sky. Each one of those has a sun and has a whole solar system that's operating around that. And then there are innumerous solar systems. And then in the Milky Way, there's some, innumerable number of then also universes that are solar systems, each one. And, it's just sort of unfathomable. And then here we are in this little planet. And, I'm sitting on a red chair thinking I'm important or something. But actually, we're just so insignificant. And then on my body, there's innumerable living cells and organisms that are all endeavoring and feeling themselves to be very important and, living their life and, being concerned. And so we're dealing in both the micro and the macrocosm. So much more is going on than what we're aware of. And the Lord expanding into all of those. So, being a reservoir of all auspicious attributes, Sri Advaita Acharya is all auspicious for the world. His characteristics, activities, and name are always auspicious. So I'm jumping ahead. So, Sri Advaita Acharya, the principal limb of the Supreme Lord. His truth, names, attributes are all wonderful. He worshipped Krishna with tulsi leaves and water of the Ganges river, and called for him in a loud voice. Thus, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared on earth, accompanied by his personal associates. It is through him, Advaita Acharya, that Lord Chaitanya spread the Sankirtan movement, and through him that he delivered the world. And so the Sankirtan movement is the coming together and chanting the holy names of Krishna. The glory and attributes of Advaita Acharya are unlimited. How can the insignificant ladies fathom them? So that kind of, we can remember the verse that we read from Bhagavatam, that that sense of overwhelmingness. Sri Advaita Acharya is the principal limb of Lord Chaitanya. Another limb of Lord Chaitanya is Nityananda Prabhu, who we will be celebrating next week, the appearance of. With all of them, Lord Chaitanya performed his pastimes, and with them he spread his mission. So Advaita Acharya is thinking that he is a disciple of Sri Madhavendra Puri. Lord Chaitanya obeys him and respects him as a spiritual master. To make proper etiquette for the principles of religion, Lord Chaitanya bows down at the lotus feet of Sri Advaita Acharya with reverential prayers and devotion. Sri Advaita Acharya, however, considers Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu his master and himself as a servant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He forgets himself in the joy of that conception and teaches all living entities, "You are the servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu." The conception of servitude to Sri Krishna generates an ocean of joy in the soul that generates such an ocean of joy in the soul that even the joy of oneness absolute, if multiplied 10 million times, could not compare to a drop of it. And so here, in terms of the Advaita Acharya is the God brother. They have as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's guru, and so in the line of teachers. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's guru and Advaita Acharya have the same guru, and so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu views himself as inferior to Advaita Acharya, that he is on the same platform as his own guru, and so he offers him respect. But because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is God himself, and Advaita Acharya is also God, an expansion of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he views himself as lower than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is non-different than Krishna. Advaita Acharya is an expansion of Krishna, and so it creates this complicated. It might be for a newcomer, might be complicated to try to comprehend these things, but there's this inversion of sense of superiority and servitudeship, and the topsy-turviness of it actually ends up a great amount of joy for all those involved, and that we imagine there are the entering into the supreme oneness is like a very blissful experience, and the experience of serving is actually so much more blissful than entering into the thing in with the eternal, all-pervading spiritual energy by 10 million times. And so it goes through and continues to describe various personalities and their relationships, and how they're experiencing servitudeship, and how each of these personalities are serving the purpose and the mission of the Lord and facilitating the spreading of love. And they're becoming actually mad ecstasy, singing and dancing like madmen. And they're instructing everyone, just be loving servants of Lord Chaitanya. And so this is all of this expansive, unlimited, unfathomable potency, and then it all gets funneled in suddenly into being a servant, and it creates a real when you have water going through like a hose at high pressure, like a big river, and then it flows into a narrow aperture. It has the water comes out in such power that it can actually cut stone. And so all this energy is flowing that way. So love for Krishna, unique effect. It imbues superiors, equals, and inferiors with the spirit of service to Lord Krishna. So when you have love for Krishna, whether you're a superior, an equal, or inferior, you are imbued with the spirit of service to Krishna, that you just naturally want to do something for him. And then this now goes through a long list of different pastimes from Nanda Maharaj to who was the father of Krishna in his pastimes on earth, to his activities with his friends, and with his activities with his servants, and his activities with his girlfriends and his wives. There's one beautiful verse here. May our minds be attached to the lotus feet of your Lord Krishna. May our tongues chant his holy names. May our bodies lie prostrated before him. May we lie down in front. Wherever we wander, pure universe, under the influence of karma, by the will of the Lord, may our auspicious activities cause our attraction to Lord Krishna to increase. So I'll wind up towards the end. A few more verses. Intoxicated by ecstatic love for Krishna, Lord Shiva becomes overwhelmed and insistently dances without clothing and sings about Lord Krishna's qualities and pastimes. All the emotions, whether the father, mother, teacher, or friend, are full of sentiments of servitudeship. That is the nature of love of Krishna. Lord Krishna, the one master and Lord of the universe, is worthy of being served by everyone. Everyone is but a servant of his servants. The same Lord Krishna has descended as Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone, therefore, is his too. Some accept him, whereas others do not. I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya, a servant of Lord Chaitanya. I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya, and a servant of his servants. Saying this, Advaita Prabhu dances and loudly sings. Then, at the next moment, he quietly sits down. The source of the sentiment of servitude is indeed Lord Balaram. This is Krishna's brother, the plenary expansion. Who follow him are all influenced by those who follow him are influenced by that ecstasy. So Advaita Charya is a separate expansion of him. He always engages in devotional service with his thoughts, words, and actions. By his words, he declares, I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya. Thus, with his mind, he always thinks, I am his devotee. With his body, he worshiped the Lord by offering Ganges water and tulsi leaves, and by preaching devotional service, he delivered the entire universe. It is he who had 500 years ago or more, now getting closer to, let's forget the dates, closer to 600 than 500 probably by now, but he recognized that the world was heading in a degraded direction, and so very fervently he prayed that the Lord manifest in a form that can then turn the tides and have people have a chance and a hope to be able to make the needed spiritual advancement and not waste this opportunity to be alive. So, Lord Krishna is the source of all incarnations, and all others are his parts and parcels. We find that the whole and the part behave as superior and inferior. The source of all incarnations has the emotions of a superior when he considers himself the master, and he has the emotions of an inferior when he considers himself a devotee. The position of being a devotee is higher than that of equality with Lord Krishna, for the devotees are dearer to Lord Krishna than his own self. This is a really nice point. That so the previous verse was saying that the Lord's own emotions shift according to his position. That when I'm God, I'm the master, then he has emotions like that and towards his inferiors. But he also takes the position of inferior, where he's saying, I'm just a servant of God. And so this is also part of this unfathomable nature. But Krishna considers his greater than himself. And so those who seek, because some want to merge with God and become God, this is quite a prevalent endeavor in spirituality, is to become God. I'm God, you're God. But Krishna thinks that actually, but here it's being described that it's actually better to be the servant of God, because his devotees are even dearer to him than himself. And so if one wants to be the same as God, and he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm not so concerned with with my own self-importance. I'm very dear, my devotees are very dear to me, and so that actually has a sweeter relationship. And so the sweetness of Lord Krishna is not to be tasted by those who consider themselves equal to Krishna. It is to be tasted only through the sentiments of servitudeship. And this is the conclusion of the scriptures. Krishna tries to taste his own sweetness. Krishna tries to taste his own sweetness, but he cannot do so without accepting the emotions of a devotee. So here we're getting into the various expressions of emotions, which unfortunately I'm not able to convey. But all interactions are rich with emotions and experiencing different flavors of emotions. So therefore, Lord Krishna accepts the position of a devotee and descends in the form of Lord Chaitanya, who is complete in every respect. He tastes his own sweetness through the various emotions of a devotee. All the incarnations are entitled to the emotions of devotees. There is no higher bliss than this. The original Bhakta avatar is Sankirtan, the first expansion of the Lord. Sri Advaita is counted amongst such incarnations. The glories of Sri Advaita Acharya are boundless, for his sincere vibrations brought Lord Chaitanya's descent upon this earth. He liberated the universe by preaching Sankirtan. Thus, the people of this world receives the treasures of the divine love of Godhead through the mercy of Sri Advaita. Who can describe the unlimited glories of Sri Advaita Acharya? I write here as much as I have known from great authorities. I offer my obeisances 10 million times to the lotus feet of Sri Advaita Acharya. Please do not take this. Your glories are as fathomless as millions of oceans and seas. Speaking of its measure is a great offense indeed. All glories to Sri Advaita Acharya, all glories to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the superior Lord Nityananda. So, anyhow, that was my clumsy attempt at conveying Krishnadas Kaviraj's ecstasy in glorifying Advaita Acharya. I will conclude what I have to say, and hope if any pastime of Advaita Acharya, but a contemporary pastime that happened to me in Mayapur many years ago, at the time when I was first developing my relation with my guru, but was not yet initiated. I was living in Mayapur doing some service, and I had the service of helping decorate somehow. And though I hadn't gone through the formal processes of initiation, typically provide one with the opportunity to serve the altar space. We were decorating for festivals and required going in there to put up the decorations. And so for the Panchatattva, I got to put up, go into the DD chamber and put up decorations and help with that process. And then the pujaris, the deities of there that I'm talking about is the Panchatattva. So we have two of them, and there's three others. And they're what, like 7 feet tall or 8 feet, something.
Exactly.
10 feet, like huge, with the bases and everything. And their feet are like this each foot, And so anyhow, we were doing the various services, and then the pujari, the priest who was overseeing everything, he gestured to me like, "You can put your head on their feet." And I was like, "Well, I don't know, but I'm I'm not initiated." I probably shouldn't share this publicly anyhow, but and then I had for another festival, got to a little bit for Radha Madhav, and I was just like standing, the DD doors open, Govinda Mari Purusham, and I was standing at the back, and I was just looking at like, how is this possible? Like I am totally unqualified. I've met my guru, but I haven't undergone any of the formal processes. How is service opportunity? And then I was standing in front of the Panchatattva, and I was just pleading, who of you, like you're all known as like most merciful, but who specifically is been providing these consistent experiences to be able to serve in a way which is beyond my qualification? Like who's so merciful? And I was making this prayer, and just at that moment I asked that, the pujari walked on, like came in from stage left or whatever, just walked onto the altar, walked over and took the tulsi from Advaita Acharya's feet, and then turned and then like gestured, take it. And it was just like, whoa. And I wasn't expecting an actual answer. And so through this gesture, and anyone who's particularly in Vrindavan and Mayapur, where there's sort of reciprocate back and forth with the deities, and the pujaris are taking and giving from the deities, one may find answers, to questions given somehow with just a simple gesture, like a flower given by the pujari. But I was really taken aback. I was just praying like, who's providing this mercy? And then the pujari just, he wasn't even standing there before. He just walked in, took it, and then called me over and gave it to me. And I was just like, okay, I will take that as a gift. So then after that, then I had an extra fondness for Advaita Acharya, because not only did he call, by his calling, did Lord Chaitanya best in the world to deliver all of us, but then it seemed he was also was specifically merciful to me to provide me with opportunities that were experiences in Krishna consciousness, which are like so rich and is extraordinary from my own experience of life, that I can't, is like I felt captured by that. You know, it was like I have the tendency to run, and it was like he put a collar on with a little, you know, like a tag with, you know, a name and and even a leash to keep me from going too far. You know, and I thought, okay, he wants me to stay near. Anyhow, so that was a specific instance of Advaitacharya's unfathomable mercy, and from my own experience of life. So we still have a little bit of time. If anyone else would like to share any favorite time or questions or anything you wish to say, I'm servant or Hi Prabhu.
Just have one small comment on what you were saying before. Okay, God is so great, He's beyond our to understand, but still we try to understand Him.
Mm.
And I think this actually what, when we try to understand Him, actually He is becoming found to reveal Himself. And then it's not anymore on an intellectual level, but it's on the level of the heart that we can feel connection, and that increase our faith into the scriptures. Because on the intellectual level, it's just not fathomable. We are conditioned to such an extent we just cannot comprehend what is beyond. But on the level of the heart, on the level of experience, we keep trying to actually learn to know the Lord and serve the Lord, then He has actually revealed it. Then it's not anymore on the intellectual level, it's on the level of the soul. And just a small pastime, I was once in Champagne, I think, where there's a big festival where they distribute like a lot of yogurt and something, I don't remember exactly, but it was like a massive festival, like really, really a lot of people. And Gurmaj was giving a lecture, Panihati, yeah, was giving lecture like this, and there were like hundreds and hundreds of pilgrims were there, and then suddenly I see there was a chandan. Chandan is like sandalwood paste that cool you put on the head.
Very fragrant.
Gives some. But I always experience that someone gives you, you know. But there they were passing the small bowl, and everyone was putting for themselves, and they were giving to the next. And then I saw that I went to sit next so that I will get the next. And then I thought, no, I will not put it. I will go and serve. So I went just to everyone, and there were hundreds of people, and I was just giving. Then it was getting empty, so we were adding some water inside, and then there was again, and I just felt so much bliss, so much bliss, just in this position of servant. I'm not just there to take for myself, but I want to serve. They are Vaishnavas, they are all great souls. Let me serve all of them, and yeah, it was really heart melting. I was totally transformed after this experience. Totally different.
We could see how blissful Gaura Prabhu is, and so he attributes that to the serving mood. And so this was even the Lord Himself, God, He also wants to taste that sweetness of serving and serving the devotees also. And so this is the amazing thing, and how sweet service to Krishna, but not only that, service to Krishna's devotees, how much bliss that produces. And corroborate what you had said, that Krishna's Kaviraj says, like, your glories are as fathomless as millions of oceans and seas. Its measure, speaking of its measure, is a great offense indeed. So he's saying, like, I've just made an offense to like try to define, but still, like, I think this is still like like, even at the risk of making offense by not sufficiently glorifying the Lord, still He makes the endeavor in 120 verses, endeavor to glorify Advaita Acharya. And I think that's just like part of this ecstatic, the ecstasy and love of servitudeship is like, what does God need from me? Like, I'm so flawed, but somehow I have the opportunity, like, let me just do what I can. And it's going to always be insufficient, but there's still like that willingness to make the endeavor, just because what I'm told to by love. And I think this is a wonderful thing. I regret my inability to to convey the flow of nectar that I made my crude effort, and I appreciate your patience in hearing. Any other observations, thoughts, feelings, emotions, experiences? Back row is still quiet section. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. The disappearance of Advaita Acharya ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees.